I have a disagreement that is relevant for the peace plan for Russia, Ukraine. Wait, where are you from?
I'm from Belarus.
Oh, okay, never mind.
What do you think is the main goal Putin has in Ukraine?
What is the main goal that Putin has in Ukraine as of right now at this point in time?
Yeah, or like rank the top 4 or 3.
I just haven't kept up much, and I don't know much about the internal politics of Russia. If I had to guess, I would say one is the most important thing is on a macro level is coming away feeling like they've won the war to maintain his like leadership, legitimacy, and all of that. 2 is I'm sure there's some land that they really want. Crimea for Sevastopol is obviously important. I guess maybe the land bridge there, although there's like a bridge there. I'm sure there's some like resources or something in the eastern part of Ukraine that they like. Probably some future guarantee that Ukraine can never join NATO or have any kind of security alliance or agreement with any Western power. And then probably some restriction on how Ukraine is allowed to deal with Russia or something, maybe militarily or whatever. That'd be my some guess like that. Yeah, there's obviously the idea would be like installing like a Russian puppet leader or whatever, but like I don't think that would ever happen. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think those are correct, but in the opposite order. I think they care a lot more about Ukraine being fucked up than about physical land. And I have reasons for that, if you want to hear them out.
Ooh, are you like a, do you know the phrase color revolution?
Yeah, I know. It's like a very popular phrase that Russia uses.
Okay. I don't actually know what that means. I shouldn't even say that. Wait, there's this concept of like...
It basically means just any revolution that happens post like 1990 that Russia doesn't like. That's literally how it's used.
Okay, let's go. Okay, sure. I don't know why. I shouldn't have even used that term. I've heard it said, but I don't know how true this is. I've heard it said that one old threat to the Soviet Union and even somewhat of a threat to modern Russia is the concept of a bordering nation getting more favorable to the West. So like Ukraine and making a deal with the European Union just to be able to trade, having a more favorable relationship with the West and then starting to thrive off of that favorable relationship is something that Russia really wants to avoid, because the message should be that like,
exactly.
Okay.
And especially because Russia and Ukraine are very similar culturally.
Okay.
Having a democratic, thriving Ukraine would be really bad for like Putin internally. We have like a shining example of what Eastern Europeans, like post-USSR Slavs, can achieve in this region on their own if they go more democratic Western way.
Mm-hmm.
So have some proofs that this is like the most important things for him. So if you look at, for example, the Minsk Accords, the second Minsk Agreement, I can send you a wiki page. So points 11 and 12 are basically that Ukraine has to... So the Minsk Accords basically were the idea that Ukraine reintegrates those rebel regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, as like a federal states. So the Minsk Accord 2 included the point that Ukraine has to change the constitution and allow those regions to have veto power for all national and international agreements Ukraine makes.
Jesus.
And also to have independent militias inside and allow Russian media.
Okay, I was aware that I think they wanted them to remain. Russia does this meme where it's like, oh, you have to be like a semi-autonomous region or whatever, which
exactly.
But they were going to have veto power over what the country proper voted for. I wasn't aware of that. Okay,
it's not. I don't think it's explicitly stated that it's veto power, but it's basically that like all national laws have to be confirmed by those regions.
Okay.
And like there's I couldn't find the source for that, but I saw it in one video that like when they were negotiating the agreements, and the journalist asked the Russian diplomats like, how is it going? And he just gave 2 thumbs up because it was really good for them. Like they wanted those things. They didn't care about those regions being reintegrated back into Ukraine as long as they could have that sort of influence on on Ukrainian politics.
Okay.
And then you saw the same thing when Russia invaded in 22. It's like they didn't go for land capture. They went straight for the capital to install their leader.
Okay.
And then the same in this peace plan. They have a lot of things, like they don't really push any territory, so they basically say the territory as is frozen, but they demand no NATO expansion.
I heard that. That can't be real. Is it really that? I've only read headlines of this, so I haven't even gone over the plan yet, so I can't argue with it. But like,
I can send you the link to the plan on Axios.
Is part of the agreement really no NATO expansion, or is it just no NATO membership for Ukraine?
So what Axios says is that no NATO expansion.
Okay. What an unbelievable cut.
It's point, which one is it? 3. It is expected that Russia will not invade neighboring countries and NATO will not expand further.
Okay.
And also you can see some other points, like recognition of Russian as a co-equal language, so the same thing we have in Belarus, that like Belarusian and Russian are on equal level.
Mm-hmm.
No like bans of Russian media, Russian church, all of that. Yeah. And my prediction is that any peace plan that Russia proposes will include those sort of things that will try to keep Ukraine, even if democratic, then like not in NATO. So if something fucks up, if something goes not the way Kremlin likes, they will just invade again.
Okay.
And they will be willing to do that a lot more than like ask for territory. So if like, and this is like really fucked up for Trump because he's retarded, and he will see like, oh, Russia agrees to cede some territory, but he will not care about those sort of things that will be terrible for Ukrainian sovereignty in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like Putin might propose basically Minsk 2 again. Like you reintegrate those regions, but they get veto rights and we get our media there. And Trump might like take him up on that.
Jesus.
Yeah, and as is, so I
The
think
U.S. Wait, real quick. The U.S. will
land-
save compensation for the guarantee. What is this compensation? Like $5 million or like $500 billion? What does that mean? What is the compensation?
Yeah,
How much?
I think it's from like the frozen assets that Russia had in foreign banks.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this whole plan is basically just Putin's demands that were handed off to Witkoff.
Oh, gotcha. So this is the Russian maximalist position, basically.
I think so. Anyways, as is, I think because land is like so low on the list,
Mm-hmm.
I think Putin really wants to keep the war as long as it was possible, because the longer it goes on, the more fucked up situation Ukraine becomes, like internally, like
Mhm.
just politics-wise, just a pressure cooker. And the more people like Trump, like right-wing populists in Europe, in US, and like use Ukraine as sort of a tool to get to power, in terms of like a talking point, like why are we sending money there, let's spend money inside, and then not spend money inside. Why are you spending money on Ukraine, let's spend money on our military, and so on. I have some more notes, I can send you an email.
Okay. Well.
And yeah, I just basically recommend you watch Vlad Wexler. He does a lot of videos on Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah.
He's like a very, I would say, unique point of view that you don't really view much on your streams. Just something to consider.
Okay. Well,
I also have some notes on yesterday's debate, but they're not as interesting.
Sure. What about it?
Basically, I don't think you should have used Nuremberg as an example, because it immediately turns off people's brains. It's like they think that you think that Republicans are doing the Holocaust.
Sure.
And also after
I think that's a fairish point, but like one thing that's like I just don't know how to. Do you live in Belarus? Are you able to say that?
And no, I moved out like 3 years ago
Okay.
after the protests and stuff.
I just really don't like how normalized how everything Trump can say or do. Like the tweet about the execution thing, that's just crazy. But he's like a child. The Sam Harris quote yesterday was really like on point of like Trump has set the standard for just being a retarded, petulant child, so he can basically act that way all the time. And that's just so insane to me. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, so basically, I think Nuremberg is a bad example because of that, and also because didn't go super well in like for what you want. So I have this quote from Wikipedia that 78% of Germans initially assessed the trial as fair, but 4 years later that has fallen to 38%. Like the information was out there, but they just didn't want to believe it.
What happened with Germany such that it didn't fall back into Nazism?
It was under military occupation from like 4 countries.
For how
just
long
literally
now?
had for like 10 years or so, I think, until they established their own government in the West and the East.
Do you have
and then the
opinions
same thing
on
happened-
U.S.? I don't know why you would know this, but like, do you know anything about like U.S. like Reconstruction or after like the?
So that's the second thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Like basically the same thing happened after the Civil War in the U.S.
Mhm.
That like federal troops were stationed in the South. They forced slavery to be abolished. They forced all the Confederates out. And I think Wick brought it up yesterday a few times. That like they were not that harsh. They were like Lincoln was like super harsh on that. But then when Lincoln got killed, his vice president was a cuckold who was pro-Confederate and basically tried to roll all of that back. and then they had a fight with Congress about it, and it basically petered out after that.
I've heard
like
different
a
people
meme
say that
that-
like Reconstruction was a failure because of reconciliation.
Oh.
There was too much. Like I know they forgave like that whole 14th Amendment thing. I think Congress passed a thing basically forgiving insurrection, so they wanted to run for government again and all that.
But Congress also passed the 14th Amendment, right?
Yeah, but then later on they did that forgiving provision,
Yeah.
which might not be bad, but I don't know. I've heard different takes on whether or not they were too forgiving or not forgiving, or no. The current take I've heard, but I haven't researched this at all, was just that like they were too forgiving, and it allowed the South
That
to like
was much later. Initially, they was super harsh on it.
Okay, sure.
You should look into it. It's a interesting topic. It's like crazy fucked up time. Like you had military governors installed by the president. You had a new department of U.S. government handing out aid to freed black people. It's kind of a crazy time.
I think that it's insane to me that that people still fly Confederate flags. That's crazy to me in the United States. That's seen as some kind of like.
That's like basically a rebellion against the United States. right?
Not
Against the
basically, it is a rebellion. It actually is it literally, definitionally, there's a whole war fall over it. Yeah, that's crazy to me. Yeah.
Oh, and also Prime chirped in a few times. It was like, oh, you want to do de-Ba'athification? I think that's like the only example I found of like kicking people out from the previous government that didn't go super well. Well, not super well, but just went terribly.
Sure. I also don't
And I
like I don't like that comparison for the two reasons I brought up. That one, I'm pretty sure, I haven't read on this in a long time, but I'm pretty sure it was a single party government, right? The Ba'ath party was the
Yes.
Yeah. So one, if you were in government, you had to be there. Number one, and then two, it was a dictatorship. I think there's an interesting I wouldn't call this paradoxical, but like a nation's people, I think, are more responsible for their democratic government's actions than a authoritarian country's people. And I'd say that's doubly true for elected or for politicians, right? Like Saddam Hussein, like you either do what he wants in his party, or you're either not in the government, or you get killed. Whereas in the United States, you have a choice on which party you can run for. You have a choice to support the government or not. You know.
So if you look at like what happened in communist countries, they also did what they call lustrations. So they didn't kick out everyone who was in the Communist Party, but they did kick out everyone who was like a high up government official, who was in the Secret Service, who was an informant, and then they like prosecuted them or something, depending on the country and the person. But all of that, I don't think it's possible in the United States, sadly, because like all of those things happened when there was like a real revolution in government or like an occupying military, and you're not going to have that. Even in the best case scenario.
I think my position yesterday, it was a little memey, but I think I kind of discovered it in real time, and that I think there is like an actual, this would be it would be politically very difficult, but functionally it would be so easy. And it would be are you aware pretty intricately of like the construction of the 14th Amendment, the Section 3 part? Like,
I argue with people online.
Congress could theoretically call a session. Now, the Supreme Court, because they love Trump, gave a ruling that said, well, actually, that's only enforceable by the Congress. Fine. Congress could create a commission and then pass a law recognizing Trump as an insurrectionist, as well as his supporters, and then everybody involved in such could be adjudicated either by a commission in Congress or by the states if they allow it via bill. And then all that would do, the nice thing about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is that the only thing it would do is it would just prohibit you from occupying a future office. It doesn't require a criminal conviction, so pardons don't apply.
That's a very reasonable position. So just have Congress pass a law that basically implements the 14th Amendment, the Section 3. Just like line out what insurrection is, how do you define it, and then the courts and states can figure it out.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be good, yeah.
But then to do that, you need like a, what's it called? Like 60 people plus.
Yeah, we need a majority or
filibuster-proof majority.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In both houses.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
All right, well.
Bye.
I love you. Be careful.
So the thing I keep thinking about